Because I'm like, hey, I was valedictorian of the top public high school in the country, National Merit Scholar. I had a perfect 5.0 out of 5.0, basically straight A's across 7 years at MIT in the most difficult, most competitive major. So I figured learning, let me just say, I figured I could have it mastered in 6 months. It took me about 10 years. And I was so stuck in my mind, it was really hard for me to learn it.
Mm-hmm.
It was a whole new skill set, right? Imagine someone that had spent their whole life laying in bed and training them for CrossFit. You can do it, but it's going to take a long time, right? It's something you have never done before.
And you're using a different part of your brain.
Absolutely.
That you were using your left brain for
Yep.
all of this, for school, math, science, all of it. And then this is about the right brain, which we all have, and get pushed under the rug like it's not important, but it's a very real part of our brains that we're not utilizing.
It is. It is interesting. And I think the only reason I had any hope of success was when I was at MIT, I always practiced martial arts and played guitar. And I think that was enough. That gave me enough of the connection to the right brain and the body that, again, it took me 10 years to really master this, but I was able to do it. But I also want to be clear, I'm not one of those people that was born with some phenomenal natural talent for healing. There are people out there. And so what I realized after 6 months, I wasn't a master. I came up with a new plan. I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to study with the best people I can find. And I'm going to reverse engineer what they're doing and figure out how it works. So that was my path. And so I worked with a lot of incredible people, different healers, intuitives, shamans, sages, spiritual teachers. And little by little, through a lot of repetition and taking a huge amount of notes, I figured out what they were doing and how it worked. And that's kind of what I do today. My angle is that if you want someone to give you a big hug and tell you it's going to be okay, that's great. But that's not me. I'm very data-driven. I'm about evidence, results. I'm kind of ruthless about let's figure out what the problem is and solve it. So that's my approach. And I've developed some amazing technology to do so, which was that one of the things I discovered on my journey is I had tried all these different kinds of self-improvement, from masterminds and vision boards to acupuncture and herbs and cleanses and Reiki healing and Pilates and yoga and osteopathy and all this cool stuff. And what I found was that we are essentially, it's a form of technology. And that's how I see it. And I remember there was a time I was in grad school at MIT, and it was one of those brutal, hot, humid summer days in Boston. And on those days, a lot of the grad students, you go into the computer server room, and it's filled with grad students in sleeping bags. Why? It was the only place on campus that had air conditioning 24/7. And so I was there one night, laying there looking at the lights twinkle as I was falling asleep. And it struck me, I'm like, wow, people work just like computers. Your body's the hardware and the subconscious is the software. Because the NLP was very popular on campus. But at the time, I'm like, that's interesting, kind of forgot about it. Then years later, I started learning healing and I thought the same thing. I'm like, wow, this is just technology. That what happened with Terry was essentially, she debugged my subconscious. That the subconscious is just a bunch of programs, just like computer code. And what I found was that of all these different, I got certified in like 27 different modalities. I've taken all these seminars, read hundreds, if not thousands of books. What I found was we can roughly group all of self-improvement into 3 generations of what I call consciousness technology. In other words, working in the medium of human consciousness, the power of our thinking, our focus, how our bodies work, what's in the subconscious. And what I would call the first generation is kind of your traditional positive thinking, law of attraction, Think and Grow Rich, and The Secret, right? It's a good foundation. When it gets really interesting is in the second generation. That's when we look at different modalities that know how to work directly with the subconscious. So well-known examples would be things like Psych-K, theta healing, emotion code, healing codes, things like that. And they all work on the principle, and they have different ways of identifying the blocks and fixing it, again, just like a computer. And I found that the second gen technologies that I learned from Terry were very effective, but they couldn't do everything. They're amazing for physical health and healing. So if me or one of my friends or family had cancer or was injured in an accident, that's what I would apply. And it helped me to reduce my pain. I got off disability, and I was able to start functioning normally.